Previously on the Game On podcast.
Grenville Dietrich, look, people have heard some of Grenville's stories and that, but Grenville walking out of a pub one night, no taxis, walked down the pizza bar down the road. You do home deliveries? Yes, sir. Stood in the corner, kept asking the fourth person. He said his address, and the youngster, yeah, well, I'm with you from a lift home. So he got the pizza cheaper than the taxi rides. So.
Oh, that's an absolute beauty.
Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
And welcome to Game On. My name's Pete Matthews. I'm one of your hosts today. And Malcolm, the Grenville Dietrich story from our first episode was an absolute beauty.
He's a character. He's eccentric, but he's a genius as well. In terms of, he's one of those guys too in quiz nights where knows the currency in Siberia and weird stuff like that. He's a fascinating man, the old Grenville.
Value for money for sure.
Around the grounds.
And on today's episode, we're going to have a little bit of a look at the silly season. The draft period has concluded for the season. A bit of 2020 warm-up games. We have a special guest with us today, Rodney Maynard, to talk about a little bit about his career, but mainly what's going on up in the Mallee League. But we start off today, Malcolm, with the Sheffield Shield opener.
Yeah, first off, let's go through the South Australian game where we played Victoria. Had a good start, and then Victoria stabilised. Marcus Harris batted very well. Sutherland played an excellent. He's played very straight. I don't think we bowled too well to him. I thought we lacked a bit of patience. I was there, I admit that. And Victoria got away, and then we were probably really chasing the game from then on. And Victoria had us under the pump on the Saturday, and we kept being there thinking, this is hilarious that he hasn't declared yet. Mm-hmm. He eventually declared, setting us 425.
Yep.
South Australia then, led by Henry Hunt, that he ended up batting all day. 97 not out. When they couldn't bowl us out in that last over, he's on strike and the game's called off. I admit I found that weird. I don't get that.
Yep.
But supported, Yen Wes Agar batted well till he ran himself out. Mm-hmm. Cardinal Children's error, he hit it well in the middle and ran. And then Clark, Kurt Daniel Grant batted through 60-odd balls without scoring. But
yep,
it was reminiscent of the Shield final win, but I admit certainly nowhere near as nervous watching.
Sure.
But yes.
I mean, South Australia, 10 wickets in hand on the last day, 388 runs. There was a little bit of a feeling that they might have a little go at it. But, in reality, it's not quite what they should be doing at this stage. I mean, consolidating for the draw.
We were none for 78. If Weatherall had kept going,
yep,
it was game on.
Yep.
Unfortunately, once he got out, Travis played a pretty average shot, and we were certainly never going to win from there. Yeah. So it was really a matter of trying to draw the game. The other two games, Queensland annihilated WA. Labuschagne and Jimmy Pearson made hundreds. And then Sandhu went through them and got man of the match. And New South Wales got annihilated in WA as well. And they played a one-day game, we're all out for 76. And then low scores, 150-odd in both innings in WA. So New South Wales is certainly haven't started the season too well either. So, two pretty easy wins in the first round. And at least we drew. And let's be honest, South Australia drawing a game is almost a celebration. Yep. I admit I wasn't happy with the team South Australia picked. I could not work out that David Drew didn't play. Averaged 62 last year, 100 in his last game and wasn't picked. I found that amusing, to say the least. And South Australia, we picked 4 right-arm medium paces. I would have played Spencer Johnson, the left-hander, with pace just for variety. It was very much the same old watching.
Yep.
And I understood why we went with the 4 quicks, because I think they thought there was going to still be more rain around during the game than what there was.
Yep.
Ironically, it was more when Carey and Head were in the first innings, and it rained a little bit and quickened the pitch up. So we're a little bit unlucky there, but yeah, I just don't think it was the best side we could have picked.
I mean, Karen Rolton Oval, they've done the stats on it. That's why they did go with the 4 quicks. I agree. I think I heard Dizzy talk about that on radio, and I can understand his reasoning for that. But, is it a case of too few doing too much once again?
Yes. It was just, we had him 6 for 100, and then I just thought we just got too impatient, trying to, just didn't keep enough pressure on. Young Grant's attributes bowl dot balls and bowl pressure from there, and I just thought we kept trying to bowl wicket-taking balls every ball. It just got, dots, didn't build pressure, so it was a bit disappointing. Yeah, let's go. The draft period, mate. Full breakdown, winners and losers.
Yeah, look, huge week. I mean, we sort of talked about this last week in our episode that, the deals were going to get done, but it was a matter of when, where, how. For me, the winners and losers, Port Adelaide, you pretty much were going to give them a bit of a tick for pulling off a 4 or 5 way trade. But how does that work for, those clubs moving forward? I mean, we're not going to know the extent of those trades for a couple of years yet.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit of Russian roulette. Like we say trade winners and losers, but who's to say a player at a different club wouldn't have been an absolute superstar at a different club with different development coaches and all that. So it is a little bit of guesswork. And look, it's also got so complicated with the trades, the points basis on individual choices, so people trying to build enough points like Brisbane for their father-son selections, build up selections for next year. So, look, it's got that complicated. I'm not sure that even all the clubs understand it, let alone everyone else.
And obviously, the point system only came in a few years ago to try and work it out, and you do need to be a Philadelphia lawyer to understand it, and we're going to find out over the next 2 or 3 years whether that was the right trade to make or not. I mean, yes, Port got the trade done for Jason Horne-Francis, and really North, on the surface, maybe the loser out of this trade?
Yeah, I feel that way. I think he'll be fantastic. Look, I'm just a bit bemused at all the criticism he's copping. We all change jobs. Mm-hmm. Now, yes, he did some things last year which weren't great, but he's a kid, and, he was offered a different job back home. Guess what? He's done what 99% of us would have done.
Yep, absolutely. I wrote down just before the Horne-Francis trade went through, at the time it looked like Port were going to have to trade a player to get him in the door. Do you think that may have destabilised the club? I mean, they've done a great job by not trading a player, but do you think if that had happened, it may have just disabled them a little bit?
Look, it certainly can. I think it certainly did years ago. I think the players now are probably more adapted to the system, and they know that, like Ryan Burton overseas, virtually, it's done from over there. Bang, you're a Port player, not a Hawthorn player anymore.
Yeah.
And the players move on now, I think, a bit more compared to the past. So it is different in that way. But look, they are. I'm not fans of anyone being horseflesh, and effectively they are.
Yeah, and traded for Horne-Francis with the basis that they're going to build a midfield around him for the future.
Oh, look, I think Horne-Francis combined with Rosie Dersma is your pace, your breakaway, your brilliance. Boak's still going strong. Wines is your ball getters. So I think the mix is fantastic.
Yep.
And
they've got that real here and now side. You look across the road at Adelaide, it's very much a rebuild, and they've been going through that for a few years. That is the here and now, but they've got that top end talent. They've got that young sort of group coming through as well. So they're pretty well placed.
I think so. Look, I'm probably a bit worried about Ruck. Lysett with his injuries last year. They certainly didn't back Hayes in. They're not convinced for him with his fitness. Mm-hmm. Another pre-season, whether that helps.
Yep.
Finlayson did okay. So look, I think that puts them back in the possibilities and the competitors for the flag again. We wait and see.
Absolutely. And then across the road, the Crows were pretty open in saying that Rankin was their target, and that was it. They went hammer and tong for him.
Look, and again, a few people questioning that. Look, the money, yes, have they overpaid him? What we're being quoted, who knows if that's 100% correct.
Yep.
Yes, he probably has, but you know what? If he comes out and he's playing well, the players couldn't care less.
Absolutely.
If he starts to struggle, then it's maybe a different matter. But at the moment, the players are just happy to get a class player back in. They know they need some more class.
And he's a little bit of a wait and see early on in the season. I mean, he's got to adapt to obviously what the Crows are doing. Burjo, obviously, with the training standards, it's going to take him a little while to just understand that a little bit.
Not so sure. I think he's more a see ball, get ball, brilliance. There's bets. There's in terms of similarities there. Look, this kid's special. With his ability. I remember back to his 18s year and hearing some people who don't go over the top about players, being around the traps, and that was the year with Luke Valenti, so I probably followed it a lot more closely. They were salivating, and if I could have $1 for every thing I heard about Rankin back then, well,
you'd be
mate,
a millionaire.
You and I can be overdoing this in France Riviera, mate, at the moment.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Crows, they did make a couple of other interesting trades, but I did see online from Cal Toomey, I think from AFL Trade Radio, he did sort of break down the Rankin trade, and he sort of likened it that the picks that they had used was, basically last year for Dawson, this year for Rankin, which would have got them Horn Francis in the end. So, and Rochelle, that's correct. So I think in the end, as much as it was one-dimensional from the Crows, I think they sort of got their man and they got it right.
Yeah. Look, I think this kid's special. I really do. Look, at that prelim final, being there as a neutral and watching Glenelg glimpsing where he was and kicking the ball in the other direction, I don't think I've seen that done for too many other kids over the years. That was like Buckley, when Buckley dominated the year, he won the McGarry and things like that. So I admit I'm a huge Horn Francis fan.
Sure. And the other trade or trades that sort of surprised me a little bit, I meant there was quite a few, obviously, and some big names to move, but Luke Jackson from Melbourne over to Freo.
Yeah, look, he is from WA originally, so it's not a huge surprise. Look, he's been offered big money and all that. A few ones which surprised me was Shaki. Now, he started off at Brisbane, then Western Bulldogs. It is his third club now, and he's still very much got a huge question mark against him. He's got another couple of years in the system. Look, I hope the kid makes it because his dad was an absolute ripper. The late Lawrence Shaki. And, tragic we lost him. And so I really hope the kid makes it. But, I found that one probably my most bemusing one.
Yep. Fantastic. Obviously, the draft period was quite big, and we're obviously taping this episode literally just after the trade period is finished. So we might just sort of touch base with this one a little bit over the pre-season and see, which players that have traded, who've stepped up, and who might be struggling a little bit.
The trade period goes longer than 5 years of days of our lives, seemingly. It's marketing by the AFL to make sure that they're front and centre on the paper 366 days of the year.
Yeah. All right, we'll just go off to a quick break, Malcolm, and we're going to come back and we'll have a little bit of a chat about the 2020 warm-up.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Welcome back to the Game On podcast.
Malcolm, the 2020 World Cup warm-up games have commenced.
Yeah, England, a couple of close ones against Australia. Take them with a bit of a grain of salt that they're not playing their full sides. I admit as an Australian, Aaron Finch has seemingly won he's seemingly Charlie from the Chocolate Factory, and they're still letting him play.
He's got the golden ticket, yes.
That's got me a bit bemused. And look, I admit whatever, 2020 personally.
Yep.
I'm a Test Cricket Shield fan.
Sure. The 2020 warm-up, it's good to get some good hit-outs. It gets players like Warner and everyone, gets everyone excited. I don't know, for me personally, just not following it as closely as you would. Obviously, it's only a warm-up. Obviously, when we get into the real stuff, you do keep a bit more of an eye on it. Who's the one that you're hoping that will stand out? Who's the one that will take the ball between the horns?
We're talking sidewise or player-wise?
Player-wise, I reckon.
Yeah, I'd like to see Maxwell come off, but look, I admit I'm a.
Yep.
I've got to be blatantly honest. I probably where it really hit me as a South Australian nut when the strikers won, sitting with Robbo, the great legendary North team manager, with Mark Robinson at the final, and we won, and it was, see you, Robbo, see you during the week. Whereas South Australia win the Shield, I'm not home for a fortnight. It was just ho-hum.
Fair enough.
And that's personally.
Yep, not a problem. And obviously, it's coming up soon, so we'll cover that a little bit more in depth, and just wanted to touch base with it right now.
Now, have you seen the dust-up between the basketballers in the USA and the NBA?
I did, and Draymond Green and Jordan Poole had a little bit of a dust-up at practice, which sort of went viral pretty quickly. There was some thoughts, obviously, that this shouldn't have been released. It was a team practice, but it happened, and Green's, quite yappy at the best of times. So, these things happen, and it sort of got me thinking and doing a little bit of research, obviously, on a couple of other little punch-ups at training that has happened. And the biggest one that I came across was probably O'Halpin and Cloak at Carlton, where he went 9 rounds with him and took him out.
Yeah, that was a bit bizarre, that one. Look, things do happen. Look, I've got to be honest, the biggest one I know of in South Australia was between the late Jim Teal and John Wynne at Nord training.
Yep.
Winnie was always the absolute master of the subtle wording and sledging, and the late great one didn't like it one night, and Barmy sent him inside to sort it out, and
it got sorted out.
It got sorted out.
Yeah.
Might have taken the cleaners about a month to get rid of clean the change rooms up.
Fair enough. There's been a few, obviously, during matches, there's the yap going on, but your own teammates at practice, it's an interesting dynamic that happens. And, from the Crows' point of view, you had Walker and Yench had a little dust up early in Walker's career. Hardican and Frampton had a little bit of a to-do, in the goal square there. And obviously across the road there, Jackson Trengrove and Jay Schultz had a little coming together. And I don't know, does it build that team confidence, that they're there for, all the right reasons and they're trying to get the best out of each other, or can it do more damage than good?
I reckon players get on with it. I think, whatever will be. Move on. Probably a bit more than what we do as supporters in nearly everything.
Yep.
So, it's probably not great. You don't want it to happen, but I reckon some of the coaches love it in terms that they've proved that the players care. So,
watch and see on that one, and hopefully this pre-season we don't get too many gold nuggets that come out of any training sessions.
Yes.
All right, Malcolm, we're going to take another quick break, mate, and when we come back, we're going to have a good chat with Rodney Maynard, Nord legend, and obviously part of the Adelaide Crows first squad in 1991, and we'll catch up with him. And really, most importantly, and we did touch on this back in our first episode, that we wanted to talk about the Mallee League and what's going on up there. He's got the keys to the city up there, so if there was anyone that we needed to find out what might be happening and what's going on and where to go from here, he's our man. So we'll come back after the break and we'll have a bit of a chat with him.
Definitely.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Five good minutes in the clubhouse.
And welcome back to the Game On podcast. Our special guest today is Rodney Maynard.
G'day, how are you?
Welcome, Rocket.
Thanks, Malcolm. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. So let's go back to originally. So you moved down to Adelaide to board at Prince Alfred, and when you first started at Nord, mate?
Yes, I did. I played in the Prince Alfred first 18 and then followed into the under-17s in the same year. We played about five games pre PAC, first 18 stuff, and then we went back and played finals. And I was lucky enough to play under Ian Stafford in those days, and we finished 5th in the finals and ended up winning the flag in 1983.
Yes, and certain Maynard was a very important part of that.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's I had a terrific final series. I had a really good end of the season and in the last and a really good final series and that really negotiated my movement in the next 12 months.
And obviously 1984 you debuted against Glenelg.
Yes, I did, yeah.
As a 17-year-old.
As a 17-year-old, yeah, people don't realise I was as young as that when I started, but people say, the Macintoshes and all that went from 17 straight into league footy. Well, I was one of those too, but because I don't think I continued on with league footy, I stepped back. Well, I struggled then for probably, I don't know, 18 months, I suppose you would say, and then until I got myself really going again in about 87, I started to really, stamp my authority on league footy, but I kind of was in and out. Well, I played up until I think it was the 16th or 17th round of the 1984 and
Yep.
moving into finals, but I was just struggling for a bit of form late there and got dropped, and David Payne took my half-forward flank and I couldn't win it back. We played in the reserves grand final, and as you know, the league went on and won for a fifth spot too. So,
Payne certainly had his influence then, and Glenn Vardaniger was the other one who came in late, and it was probably out of you and Glenn then. So you're probably a bit unlucky, and then of course you played in the superstar reserve sides in 85 and 86, where
and played in a couple of premierships there, but reluctantly didn't work hard enough, and it's a couple of years I regret, and I mean everyone has regrets in their footy career, and that was 2 years I felt like I'd wasted. I'd stayed, got to the level where I wanted to, and I couldn't sustain it. I don't know whether it was just because I was young and a bit.
And then the light bulb meeting virtually with Wally.
Yeah, that was pretty important, I think, for me. I was nearly ready to come home, to be honest with you. And Wally said, "Well, have you really given it a fair go?" And I was there going, "Oh, what do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, I don't realistically. I think you started well, but you've dropped off. Where's your, And he said, "Well, why don't you get fitter and have a real go at it, a real crack at it?" And I kind of looked at him and said, I kind of thought, I went home with my tail between my legs and thought, Wally Miller wouldn't say that to you if he didn't mean it. So he said it with authority and said, "Well, I want you to have another go and a proper go." So I came home and got myself super fit. And
that's an
I went
understatement.
back and I also told him I wanted a change. I played forward all my life. Since I was about 8 years old, I played forward, and I said to him, I need a change. And I was about 20, I think, and he goes, "Well, why don't we play at halfback, centre halfback or fullback?" And I ended up, Tommy Warhurst did his hamstring early that season, and I ended up playing fullback with Breton at centre halfback in 87. So, and things spiralled from there. So it was a good change, and it's something I needed, and I got myself fit, and I seemed to be able to read the game pretty well from back there, and snuck down and kicked a couple of goals too, which was always pleasurable. So
that's a great story. I mean, a lot of people obviously know you from playing down back, and to know that you started up forward is fantastic. That's a great little story, mate. Thank you.
It's a bit ironic there too, Rocket. That was probably Brenton's best year as well, and you just wonder if Brenton had stayed and played centre half back, how his career would have panned out as well.
Oh, I agree totally. Well, he was in super form when I went to fullback and took Tommy's place, and unfortunately, Breton broke his collarbone.
Yeah, that's right.
And Tommy was fit to come back, so I got the promotion to centre half back, and Tommy went to fullback, and then Breton came back in as a ruckman then, because Hall and Hine, as you know, Hiney moved on. And Hall was always, he was a bit of an injury regular, I call it, and so Breton was rucking against guys like Richard Loudner and Mick Redden and all those kind of guys, and was doing a fair job, I thought too. So he just started to get, but he had a few injuries that just at the wrong times, which didn't help his career. I thought he was unlucky in a lot of ways.
And for 7 seasons, mate, yourself and your brother drove down to Adelaide each week.
Yeah, we did. It was a Thursday. Well, Breton didn't do the first 5 years. He only did 88 and 89, and then he came home about halfway through that year. I did the first 5 on my own because I was coming. He was living in Adelaide and had a job in Adelaide. He kind of left the farm and had a job in town and gave it a fair crack. And I was still doing the 200k jaunt on a Thursday night, and I'd come home and then again go back Saturdays. But then, ironically, I got involved with the Wixers, like Tim and Simon. Tim played a bit of under-17 football, and I played school footy at POC with Tim, and he, I used to stay down there when we weren't busy and work for them on a Friday, and then play and come home. So that I did that not every week, but when we were busy. But I did that sometimes, and that I appreciated the stopover too, instead of doing it Thursday night and then back again Friday night or Saturday morning, and then play and then go again type thing. So yeah, but we did it 7 years. I did it for. Yeah, I tell you, if the Crows didn't come along, I was just about ready to. Yeah, I was all driven out just about. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
What type of mental attitude did you need to take to that? Because that's a fair time sitting in the car back and forth for 7 years.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know. I know the road pretty well now. Yeah. But I don't know. I just because it's something you want to do and want to achieve, and I didn't want to leave Lamoureux. I loved it home as well, and I love farming. I love country life. So I had the best of both worlds. That's how I should put it. So yeah, so I didn't mind hopping in the car. Mum would come with me when I'd sit on the tractors all night, and Mum would hop in with me a couple of times and give me a bit of a break, or just talk to me, and I'd drive, and she'd give me a bit of keep me going. Something like when I was really tired after tractor driving all day and that. So, but it was great. I look back and it was something that you achieved with. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It wasn't that bad. I didn't come across any accidents, which was great. So.
Your dedication, with Mick Redden and Rick Davies and all that was pretty incredible. And I think it also showed where South Australian footy was at that time as well. Now let's go to the Crows, Rocket.
Yep.
And let's go to the trial game, the famous trial game against Essendon. Let's not go so much to your playing, but a certain person in the crowd and her attitude that night.
My wife?
Yes. Let's go to Cheryl.
Yeah, if I got injured, I was going to. Yeah, I think I would have died. Yeah, I think she thought I was going to get an elbow in about the. Yeah, I think an elbow just missed me, and
there's one thing about that game which will never ever be broken was the crowd for a trial game.
Oh, that my hair on the back of my neck. I mean, the Hawthorn game was pretty big, but the first initial into play Essendon in Adelaide. With the crowd, we'd played a few trial games at Bunbury and Kalgoorlie through the early part. There was nothing like running out on that football park that first night against Essendon, and I was getting married the next day. I mean, how I was just in awe, and the crowd, like you said, I've never seen a crowd standing on the rafters. It would have been, they say 50,000. I reckon there would have been 60 there.
It was just unbelievable.
And when I ran out, the roar. I mean, we looked at each other and went, wow, this is what we've been training hard for the last 4 or 5 months, since October to get to this stage and be a part of this. I mean, it was just incredible. And playing against guys like James Hird and, Peter Somerville and Alessio and Salmon and, all those guys. It was a first initial night. And, I mean, it was great. And I got through. And luckily, Cheryl thought I was going to get whipped. An elbow just missed me or something with about 3 minutes to go, and she thought, "Oh God!" But I got to the wedding too, so that was okay. And football had made it start. So I didn't get a honeymoon though. Graham told me I wasn't allowed to go away because the season was about to start. But there was a lot of guys in my situation because we didn't know the Crows was going to eventuate, and guys had booked in their weddings and so forth earlier in the 12 months prior. You see, and thinking they were going to be at Nord and all that, and then bang, the Crows was there, and I mean, it wasn't just me. There was a few guys getting married and all that through that period, but we had to put a delay on our honeymoons and go at the end of the season. We went away for a couple of days, and that was about it, I think, and we were back training and playing, getting ourselves ready for the first game. So
that's great. Just going back to pre-season there, obviously the famous thing to happen out of that pre-season was the firewalking. Were you wanting to be involved with that, considering you run and you'd have been protecting your feet, I'm sure?
Yeah. Oh well. I mean, what an outrage that was. I mean, it was Nigel Smart's. It was his idea. So Graham thought it was a great. I mean, we were hearing stories about in the papers and on the TV. This firewalking was a new what Escalade or whatever it was, in the community and everywhere it was happening, and people were trying it and all that. And Nigel thought it would be a good camaraderie builder for the boys. So we went through such a organised session. It started about 1:00 in the afternoon, and watching the actual fire burn down, and then going back to to your rooms, and then going through a process to get yourself keyed up for it. Like as in holding each other's arm and walking, what you're going to say when you walk through there to keep your mind off the coals and all that, and then you go back and have a look at the fire. It was about a 6 to 7 hour process, and then it was all there. The coals were there, and we've gone up there as a group, and of course Nigel, he instigated all the fire walking, so he was going to go first. So he went. And I reckon Rowie was in front of me. He was about 5th, and I was about 6th or 7th, I think. And we thought, I think our idea was, let's get it over early so we can get out, get it done and get up. We don't want to be 52nd bloke, to walk across there. We might have been better being later. I don't know. But we thought, get it done, get it in early, go. Like, yep. So
I know Sean Tasker was nice and worried because I think he was up next. So Task was pretty happy when it got called off.
Oh, well, I think we all were. Once we saw Nigel's feet, when Nigel walked across, he got there, which was surprising. He got over there, and then he just said his feet were burning, and then they had a look, and Graham and Bob Hammond and all that were there, and the doctors, and said, well, we're going to put a stop to this. So that was the end of that. And but that guy, to his credit, he walked over and back and had he must have been well trained, or he had hard feet, or he was certainly, he had the psychological effect on him to do it. But he got across there and without a worry, and he showed us his feet, and we just went, wow. It can be done, but it must take a little bit of training, and like I said, a bit of harder feet than we had, I think. So, but no, we didn't. Nigel was the only one, and that was the end of that. So, yep.
And then next week, the round one, famous night,
absolutely,
and a certain Maynard in the list of leading goal kickers after round one with 3 goals from a back pocket.
Yeah, no, it was just unbelievable. Everything fell and bounced. Whatever could happen our way, it went our way. Decisions, umpires, the ball, everything, missed kicks, they fall in your arms. It was just one of those nights that you take it. Because Hawthorn had won the night grand final, I reckon.
Yep.
And plus we beat them by 13, but they went on to win the premiership that year too, I reckon.
Yep, certainly did.
And but yeah, it was just one of those unbelievable. We just played above us, and that was another huge night for the footy club, playing the first home game at Footy Park and having the crowd, and because we had all Adelaide behind us. There was no Port Power in those days, as you know, and the whole, nearly the whole Adelaide was behind us. And it was a fantastic win. As I said, beating Hawthorn 23-9 or whatever it was. And like I said, I just fell into a few vacant areas in the forward line, and the ball would land on your chest or bounce in your direction, and you got lucky. And it was just one of those fantastic nights. So I said I don't think anyone played bad that night.
It was certainly the hottest ticket in town, that's for sure.
Sorry?
It was certainly the hottest ticket in town for sure.
Oh, absolutely. No, it was unbelievable. But if you go back a step, then the week after, I think we played either St Kilda or
Carlton.
Sorry,
Carlton.
Was it? And we got thumped, didn't we?
Oh, we lost by about 6 in the end. I've always felt sorry for Tommy Warhurst out of that, because he was just honest, where he said, he'd had duels against Kernahan, and Sticks had beaten him a few times, and I think Curls in particular was the one who took exception to that, and it was incredible. That was virtually the end of Tommy's career at Adelaide. It was bizarre, really.
Yeah, it was. I stood Spalding, I think. I had Spalding that night, or that day, and he had Kernahan, I think. So, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think Tommy had a bad day, to be honest with you.
I thought it was ridiculous.
And which goal out of that first game was your favourite, personally?
Well, probably the crumbing one. I just came forward through the half or flank, and the ball just fell from the crumb, I think, and I just scooped it up, and I think I drove it about 50, I think, and went through the middle. And the second one bad, I timed it. I read it just right, and Eddie just was going to reel around on his right, and he came back. The bloke just stopped him, and he came back, and I was coming inside, and I got a handball on the left-hand side inside and popped that one through. And then the last one was Darren Smith, who just popped it over. I just kind of dribbled into the forward line, and no one ever followed me in. And I just stood there for felt like half an hour there on my own. And he just popped it over to me, and I drilled that one too. But probably the crumbing one, the first one, being the first one too in AFL. And I just, it was just one of those lucky, and I just screamed through and broke the pack and thumped it through. It was that was probably my favourite one.
Interesting, that first year, you probably played the +1 role a bit. You were ahead of your time, and I think King O'Taylor may well have driven that idea. And, if anyone suited to that role, it was you with your running ability and,
Yeah, oh, no, I did it. I loved it. They thought I could I could read the game well and when to go and not to go. And, and I felt like I had a bit of a gift that way. So, and I could feel like I knew when I was going to feel like I knew when I could get the footy or get it to, come back inside, or I get to the stage where, you could read it properly and that, you knew where you were going to be where the ball fell or come back inside, you could dribble forward at the right time. So I enjoyed that role. I did. I took a few chances, but, it was just I love to put defence into attack, quickly. That's what my aim was.
Yep. You were certainly ahead of time. That's the stock standard these days, that rebound off of half-back for sure.
It is, yeah. And I certainly, that's why I think, because I wanted to go back, but I still wanted to be a part of the forward too, get through half forward and, try and crack a line or two and get through as well. So that was my aim. I didn't want to be a deadbeat fullback who stayed at home all the time, or a centre half back who just had 6 possessions and had 13 spoils or something like that. I wanted to run off and I wanted to get some ball as well. That was my theory. Get some touches and win the footy if I could too. A lot of those good players took you to the ball too. I stood the Chris Grants and those type of blokes and the Stewie Lowe's. Well, you knew you were in the contest every time anyway, because they just take you to the footy, those blokes, every time. So you're in the game all the time, which was great. I loved it. So,
of course, you were the first player the Crows played to 50 games, and then you got injured. I reckon it was against Sydney, on memory, in '93. Then you came back from injury in the finals. And I've always had the debate with you. I still think you had a very good prelim final against Essendon, where you've always been hard on yourself for that. And I still think you did a very good job on Hurd and that. And
Oh, my first half was all right, but everyone's second half was. I can't watch it though. I cannot sit and watch it. I didn't play. I broke my collarbone and I got myself back. Well, I wasn't. I can tell you now, I wasn't 100%. I struggled. I played one, and then I played Hawthorn late in the season, and then I missed another week because I got hurt. Gary Ayres ran into my shoulder again, and I felt like I'd broken it again, and I thought, I'm in trouble. And then I went back to Norwood and played against South Adelaide at Footy Park, and had a good game. Had a 35 touch game or 33 touch game, I think, and then I went over to watch the Hawthorn final the next day as an emergency, and then I didn't. And then they picked me the week after to play Carlton out at the Waverley, and we kicked 8 goals 20.
Yeah.
And Mods kicked 1 goal 6, which never happened through the whole season. He kicked 129 straight goals all season, and then that day he kicked about 1-6 or 1-7, I think, and we got done. We should have won that one. Really, I felt like we had enough of the footy,
and I had a lot of the ball.
Reason today that we had so much of it, and then we played the best probably half of footy we played for 3 years. When we were at the Crows, that half was, that was just fantastic footy. It was just a great vibe in the change room, and I honestly think we thought we were through. We played our best footy in a half. We were unstoppable. Everything was just moving, and we were kicking goals, and we were 7 goals up at half time, and we went in and thought, well, I think we were playing the next week already, which was a bit early. Mm-hmm. And I think Graham tells me the story that he would if he had half time again, he would have changed it all. He just went in. I think he thought the same thing. He thought he got ahead of himself too, which we all did too. It wasn't just his fault, but he just said, I got ahead of myself too. I was thinking about next week and didn't come in with we must stick at our effort. We're going really well. do this, and then as you know, it was the Michael Long story after that. After half time, he got them going, and the way they went, and we couldn't hold them. I mean, if Jars kicked that goal after half time, maybe things might have changed. That would have been 8 goals up.
Early third
first
quarter.
2 minutes of the third quarter, he could have dropped, and he was only 10 out. And if he'd put that through, it would have been 8 up. And that might have dropped their whole. They might have dropped their bundle. By then, and said it was too hard, but they found a way to get back, and I think we dropped it by 11 points in the end. So that was, I mean, that one that got away. That was a grand final they got away. That was achievable, winning a grand final that year, easy.
Yep.
Yeah, we could have beaten Carlton, so no doubt about that.
And who would you say in your AFL career was your toughest opponent?
Oh,
or best opponent you played against?
Yeah, I mean, I stood all those bigger guys. I mean, like I said, Spalding. I mean, I even got to stand Lockett a couple of times, or a match and a half, and I stood Brereton and I stood Stewie Lowe. He was always difficult. His hands and his marking ability was hard work. I got Carey early in his career, so he wasn't quite there, I call it. He didn't have the work ethic when I stood him, so I didn't have too much trouble with him. But I'm glad I wasn't there after 95, because that's when he really stamped his authority on AFL footy. He got himself going, but I stood him as a younger, bit immature, I think he was, but he certainly became, as we know, he was a great player. So, and Chris Grant, I rate him highly too. He was a terrific player too, and all that as well. So I got to stand a lot, but I don't know, they're all different. So,
and the famous story, Rocket. Come on, let's have your side of it. The famous Lockett story, telling you, go for it, Rocket.
Oh well, it was just one of those. I mean, he already kicked 8, I think it was, and it was halfway through the third quarter, and I think Danny Hughes had a go, and he got hurt. I think Tony ran over him with a hip and shoulder, and he was off. He went off on a stretcher, I think, and then Nigel had a go, and then he got a couple kicked on him, I think, and then Trevor Jakes was heading my way, and I've gone, oh no, here we go. Here we go. And Trevor goes, yes, Rodney, you're going back on Lockett. And I've gone, oh Trevor, no. Ouch. Trevor, no. And he goes, and I said, I went back there, and the first ball came in, and, in the olden days, used to grab their Guernsey so I could climb up his back a bit and punch it away, just to support yourself so you don't fall off him. Yep. Or so you grab their Guernsey and you keep them nice and close and you punch it away. And he just looked at me, stood at me and stared at me and said, if you ever hang on to my Guernsey again, you know what happened to Danny Hughes? And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, well, and he goes, well, he went off on a stretcher, didn't he, mate? That'll be you. That'll be you. That will be you in 5 minutes if you're going to hang on my Guernsey. So
I think Lockett had told that to a few guys, to be honest with you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't the only one.
Yep.
Well, look what happened to poor old Peter Caven.
Yes.
Yeah. And, so I stood off him and tried. But he only kicked a couple on me. But then I got another go at him at Footy Park about, I don't know whether it was the same year or the year later, because we had a few out too. And, of course, Graham threw me the task to go back to full back on Tony as well. And, yeah, that was a tough gig. I mean, I was I mean, I felt like I had a fair game, and I didn't know how many he kicked, but he kicked 10 anyway. And we still won. And we still won the game. But I felt like, I had 20 possessions too. I thought I had a pretty high, I took 9 marks or something, and thought, God, I didn't have a bad go. But I thought he might have kicked 6, 7 maybe. But then I looked up on the scoreboard at the end of the game, and he's kicked 10. And I've gone, oh, God, that deflated me.
Fair enough.
So, but that was just, I mean, they always look for him. He was, even if it was a 10-metre kick, and if they didn't kick it to him, did they get told? That's how much he drawed the ball.
Yeah.
He just drawed it to him, and if they didn't kick it to him, they'd get that look, that stare down. Like he had that impact on their players as well. So.
And the frustration, Rocket, when you ended up going back and forth with Nord and the bizarre night, and it was actually the famous Gary McIntosh night against Central was at Footy Park, where you sat on the bench the whole night. Yeah,
it was tough. I don't know. I don't know what Craigie was. I don't know whether he had the crows in the gun or I don't know. I love Norwood Footy Club, and I tried to keep telling him that, but he'd want to meet with me every Friday night, and talked to me about, he was worried that I wasn't there for the right reasons. And I said to him, well, I'm not at the Crows. I mean, this is the only other club I'd ever want to play for. I said, Norwood's my home, but I sat on the bench, I reckon, for 10, probably longer. I probably sat on the bench for 14 weeks.
I admit, Rocket, I admit when I did interview Craigie for the article in my book on Craigie, I did well and truly make that point that Rocket was red and blue blooded. I said, Jesus, Craigie, that was bloody ridiculous. And it was an interesting conversation. Look, he did. You're right. He seemed convinced that Rowie was the red and blue one. And to this day, I vehemently disagree with Neil on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I do too. I was rubbish. Well, 1 week I can tell you. Well, it happened about 13 weeks in a row. All the season he put me on. He wouldn't put me on for the first half. I'd have to sit there and bide my time. And every time at half time he'd say, "Righto, Maynard, half hour play." I'll go, "Righto, thanks, Neil." And away I go. And every week I'd have 15 plus possessions every week. I was playing. I'd go on and I'd go on with the right attitude, and I kicked 2 or 3 every week. And I thought, God, I'm not in bad touch. I honestly thought, God, I'll start next week. Maynard, you're on the bench. Yeah, righto.
Crazy.
So I sat there. Well, then after about 6 weeks, he rang me and said, on a Friday night after we'd spoken, he said, "All right, made a decision. Going to play in the reserves today. This is down at Glenelg. We're going to play in the reserves." And I've gone, "What?" He goes, "Oh, well, I'm just thinking that you need a full game and we're going to play in the reserves in the centre." I'm there going, I didn't comment. I just said, "Righto, whatever." I said, "What's the report time?" Well, then I get an AM call back about an hour later. He goes, "Perry's pulled out. You're in the league side." And I'm going, "Oh, beauty, I'm starting." "No, you're on the bench."
Yeah, crazy.
And I've gone, "Oh, righto." And I went on and had 18 possessions that day too at the Bay. And well, then it got towards the end of the season and the finals. Well, then I was full noise. He said, "Right, you're starting." It was about the 20th round. He said, "Right, you're starting. You're ruck roving with McIntosh, on a half or a flank." I've gone, "You beauty," And we got to the prelim that year, but
yeah,
I got badly hurt in that game, in that prelim, and I struggled after half time. I think I had a corky that was I probably wouldn't have played the next week anyway. I was bleeding that badly, and big Matthew Promise told on my toe. I broke my big toe.
That's right. Wow.
In the second quarter, I had to have injections in that at half time. I said, "Doctors, put a needle in there. Just give it and just numb it up so I can play." But my corky, certainly, I was pretty well buggered. I was struggling big time. But I don't think, I know, I mean, Macca and I get on really well, but I think Macca thought I wasn't there for the right reasons as well until I started playing a few games and gritting my teeth and digging in like I would for Norwood any match. And I think he apologised to me about a few years later and said, "No, I know you were having a crack and I apologise and it wasn't, you were there for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons." So I said, "Oh, well, I'm just glad I was." I mean, I didn't want people to think I was there I didn't want to be at Norwood because Norwood was my club. I said, I love the Norwood Footy Club. Well, look, I
can remember you and I having a beer together that night discussing the future, and I do remember that very vividly. Of course, I used to spend a bit of time at your place, and Cheryl may have said on a few occasions, didn't I have a home to go to? And I said, "I'm quite happy here, thanks." Yes. I probably wasn't her favourite person there for a while, mate.
Well, mate, she knew how I love talking football anyway. So
exactly.
Yeah, she's had to live it with her whole life, but she's enjoyed every minute of it because I got to meet so many people, and she's been on my side, and she's had some terrific times as well. Don't you worry. Like she says, she gets mad with me talking footy, but I mean, she loves coming and meeting people as well. So yeah, she's enjoyed that side of it.
So obviously, after leaving the AFL and Norwood, you head back home to Lameroo.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I underneath, I couldn't wait because Norwood and that I would have loved. I nearly stayed for another year under Peter Road. I nearly did, but I'd said I wanted to make the commitment back to the farm because Breton and Dad were buying more land, and I said I always wanted to come home, and there was property, corresponding with next to our property, and it was silly not to buy them at the time because we wanted to get bigger, and So I said, no, I was ready for home, but then I think Colin Rickus? It was either president. Is it Colin or Norwood president?
Yeah,
Rickus, was it?
Yeah.
Rickus.
It's annoying me now. I feel terrible, Rocket.
Yeah, I do.
Keep going.
Yeah. He came as president, drove up and saw me, and he said, "I'll come up and get you every week. I'll come and drive you down." Because I said, I did a lot of driving in my time. I don't really want to start driving. He said, "I'll come and get you. We'll fly you down some weeks. It'll be all right. We'll get you there. Just play another season for us." And I'm thinking, but I didn't in the end, and I probably blew it. I wish I stayed another year or two because, I wish I did. But because I think Peter Roden, I got on really well. He came and saw me as well and wanted me to play, and I got on with him really well too. And I do now. I met him a couple of times again, and we do get on well. I wish
John Rickus.
Yep. John Rickus, that's it. Yep. And but I didn't in the end. But I underneath I wanted to come home and play with Breton, and I had a lot of mates here that were farmers and that I left 12 years prior and hadn't played with them, and some really good mates that I still were involved with because I was still living at home a lot, especially at Norwood. And then when I went to Adelaide to live for 5 years, I still come home and see them and watch games, and I was just looking forward to playing with some old mates and my local club, and I'm glad I did make the decision. I loved it. I enjoyed it, and we won a flag the first year, which was because I was driving to win one. They'd won 2 already, and I kind of think I got them up again because I was that keen. They kind of said, it's only a grand final. I'm there going, well, hey, mate, I haven't won one for 10 years. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I pushed hard, and we got there, and we won quite a few in that first 5 or 6 year period that I was home. I think we won 5 out of 7 or something, I think, or 5 out of...
So you played 206 games for Lamourie, which is incredible. You've played well over, it's nearly 450 senior games in the end, effectively.
Yeah. I probably played a lot more than that too, with trial games and Escort Cup games that they didn't count, and a lot of other, and then all my association games and state country, that's not included in all them either.
So six male medals. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And Brenton as well.
I was lucky. Brenton he was older, and he won with the Maynards, hogged it for a while there. He won the 4 before I come home, and then I won 6 after I was home, and so we kind of hogged the show for a while.
Put a mortgage on it.
Yeah, we did, and I was lucky. I mean, I came home fit, I'd never been as fit as I was, and I came home and playing against, footballers of the caliber of most of the AFL footballers. You come home with, you're a stronger vibe, you feel like you're stronger and fitter, and, you're hungrier, and so that helped. I mean, the first 4 or 5 years I was still, I was only 30. When I come home, I was only 30. I was in my prime, really, I felt like. You learn a lot about the game and all that. I wasn't ready to coach straight away. I wanted to just come home and play and just enjoy it again, so.
Rocket, let's go back to on your running side of things. Is it true or myth that you actually got banned by the Crows at one stage from running because your body fat ratio had started to get too low?
It was. I lost a lot of weight. I was down to 83 or 84, and I should have been up around the 88 to 90, and I just got myself extremely fit and healthy, and I got myself a bit light, but I was still fit. I wasn't unwell or anything. But they told me I was working hard too at Wixie's in the summertime there at pre-season. I was out in the sun and shoveling, digging trenches and all that as well. So, I mean, it wasn't easy to put on weight out there either, So they made me stop working there as well, because I went back and worked for Wixie for a couple of years, my mate, and that when I was at the Crows, because I painted for the first couple of years with Roger and Rowie, and then I went and worked with Wixie just for a change, and then they more or less told me I wasn't allowed to work out there anymore because I was working too hard and I was coming to training too tired and flat and that. Well, I did some days. I was knackered because we were digging and I was a farmer. I just used to work and all that, but it was taking its toll on training as well and my footy a bit, I think. And like I said, I couldn't seem to put on any power weight and that. So I did get myself probably too fit. Well, I just become a running machine. That's what I become. I was Swerty and me and Lip Tack and that. We were just, any excuse we'd get, we'd run, but we were fit.
There's still marks on Payneham Oval from all your running you did there, mate. I joined you occasionally, but I certainly never kept up with you for too long.
That's what all those wear marks are.
No, I loved it. I did it for a lot when I came home too. I only just stopped when I was 50. I used to run right up until I was about 50, and the last 5 years I've probably slowed up a bit, and I do a lot more walking nowadays. But in those first few years, I used to run into Lameroo. My farm was 17 k's out, and I used to run to Lameroo, you know, and sure I'd work, you know, I'd knock off and run in at 4 o'clock, take me an hour and 20 or something, and then I'd run and go home with her then, you know, to keep myself fit and that as well.
Wow.
So
and obviously at the moment, mate, the Mallee League unfortunately has ceased to exist.
Yeah, well, it's in the process. Nick, it's all happening now. I mean, we've just got to be accepted by the River Murray and Karoonda as you know, Borders left us in the lurch. Left us about, you know, they were on the move about 3-4 months ago. They said they were going to quit the league, and that kind of put pressure on us. And then, we thought we were going to go in with a 5-team competition then with Karoonda and Peak and Lameroo, Pinaroo, Marvel. But then Karoonda came to us. It was just after the grand final and said, well, realistically, we feel like we cannot get a side on the park next year with volunteers and numbers and all that. We're done. I think there'll be no 2023 for the Karoonda Footy Club. So it all started a process, and we thought, well, hell. And then they'd obviously spoken to Peak, and then it all evolved from there. And then they said they were going to, so we were left down to 3 teams, which wasn't going to work here. Marvel, Pinaroo, Lameroo. So we jumped on and spoke to Pinaroo and said, well, we better get something moving here. We better talk and get things moving if we're going to decide to merge and go together and move on. And then Marvel decided, well, they were going to go into the Murray Valley Footy League, which is the independent league. So, no, we're in the process of now getting our colours and getting accepted into the River Murray, which will make their team a 9-team competition with 16 rounds. So you'll play each side twice, and then there's a buys involved as well, and then there'll be so it'll be a 19-week competition with those 9 teams, and so that's what it'll be. But we haven't been accepted yet, but it's all the SNFL won't not let it happen. And our merge was, we thought we'd go to the Riverland because we had access from Allawoona up through there, and Pinaroo had access that way. But the vibe in our community was to go to the west, which was to the River Murray, because then they could push on to Adelaide. A lot of kids at colleges, at school, and they could shop and go back home and all that. So the vibe, 70-80% the vibe was to go that way. So that's where we're going to apply for. So the Riverland won't get our company. It'll go to the River Murray. So Pinaroo and us are in the process now to getting our name, colours, and I'm on the recruiting. We're getting all our recruiting. I'm just about to speak to Nick Hyde. He rang me before. I meant to ring him back in a minute. And we're busily recruiting some players at this stage to come back and represent whatever we're called. I mean,
the Maynard Menzel Football Club.
Maynard
Menzel Football Club, I would have thought.
Yeah, Southern Mallee Giants. How's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds okay.
There was a little post going around online, the Mallee Bulls.
Yeah, well, the Mallee, but we don't know what Karoonda and Peak are going to do yet. So we just got to probably find out a little bit of information what they're heading to, and then But we were talking if we went to the Giants, we could use the GWS Guernseys, and because there's no one in the River Murray that way. That's what I'm thinking anyway. But
that makes sense.
The survey might show other colours and different names and all that. But they had it out there the other night, and Cheryl and I said the Southern Mallee Giants, and I thought the GWS colours are pretty good, and they're easily off the shelf. Your orange scarves and and all that stuff. It's the memorabilia. You can get it a bit easier if you go and have a club that that's in the or something. So and it'd work in the River Murray, but that might change because I'm only one voice. So yeah.
Rodney, one more serious question about the whole country sporting side of things, not just footy. As we know, country, population's decreasing in the country, machinery taking places, jobs, all that. And I just don't think the AFL, etc., realise just how vital sport is to a country community. Basically, if a person doesn't get involved in sport in the country, they're eventually ostracised and they don't become a member of the community. And the whole mental health side of things, and that I just think is being grossly underestimated at AFL, government level and all that, just how important sport is. And I certainly don't know a solution, but I just can't believe that there's not more support being given overall to country sports. I'm not just talking footy.
They took their grassroots footy and all this, and the AFL get heaps of money and put it back into the country. Well, I mean, our sports, summer sports here are shot, like our cricket team. We have not got a cricket team in Lamoureux now. We barely have a tennis team, and now we won't have any footy, really. Well, we have footy here 4 weeks of the year and 4 at peak, but there's just sport here. I mean, and we need it. I mean, I don't mean to talk about this at a regard, but it's just mental health too. People love socialising and getting out and talking about their farming, and it's so important for country people to get out. I mean, if we all stayed home and worked every week, well, there's going to be a lot of trouble, I feel. But I mean, summer sport's tough. I mean, we just haven't got any commitment here anymore. That we haven't got the numbers. I mean, I was playing my under 16 Colts team this year, senior Colts. I only had 6 regulars, so we were playing these combined games, against, with Peak and Lamoureux combined against Karoonda and Borders and Border Downstairs, things like that, to try and get 16 or 18 on a foot field so they'd have a competitive game. And that was working, ironically, but the parents, that's the main key why we're changing our league too, is because we're merging with another league, is because we've got no juniors. And I mean, parents are worried about the kids not getting good enough and enough footy. So, and I can understand that immensely, because if I was there playing 6 aside or 7 aside, well, it just feels like they're not going to get any better. And they want to go to a league where there's numbers and, where they can get better and play. So that's our biggest issue here, is our juniors. Our senior footy was going along all right, but it was our under 16 level that was depleted. And I said before, I just think we need footy in country towns, because it's going to quieten up our town. It's even going to make it when we go to the River Murray. I mean, we do come back here, like I said, a few weeks and that, but the town is going to quieten down and get quieter. I mean, and it's just not the numbers around now. I can't believe that there's just no senior Colts. There's the juniors, they're playing with 12 or 13, We just can't fill 18 sides, not like
scary
10, 15 years ago. And cricket, tennis, it's all, even golf. You go out and play golf, there's only, you might get 16 out for the Saturday. And it's not great. I mean, sport in the country is depleted completely. And I mean, football, I just think that, the AFL could have did more, but I don't know, what can you do more about numbers? So it's my biggest question. So there's
certainly no obvious solution.
No, there's not. No, there's. I mean, we can bitch and holler about them, but if there's no numbers, you can't do anything without numbers, can you? So, I mean, we'll just have to move on, and hopefully it makes it better for the kids down in the River Murray, and we can get 16 or 15 or 16 on the side, if we can, because there'll be 3 juniors down there, under 18, 15s, and 13s, I think it is, or something. I'm not sure what they've come up with. They used to have 4, but it's going to go back to 3, I think. So, because of numbers and that. And they're having trouble in the River Murray too. They can't fill full sides either. So it's not just us out here, 200 kilometres away. It's towns that are 100 kilometres away from Adelaide as well. It's happening everywhere. Yeah.
Rocket, as you and I and that have always loved to chat about footy, and look, member of the South Australian Footy Hall of Fame, Nord Hall of Fame. Being there the night when you were inducted in the Nord Hall of Fame. Yep. Obviously, you know how much Nord Footy Club, etc., and the Crows and that mean to you. Greatly privileged having you aboard tonight, Rock.
No worries. No, thanks, guys. Love to have a chat. You know that. Love to talk footy.
Thank you, Rocket. It's been an absolute pleasure to go down memory lane with you and discuss a few things, obviously, about you personally. But, we really wanted to touch base about the Mallee League, and we're sorry to see that country sport is just struggling a little bit at the moment.
Thanks,
That's
Rocket.
Right. We'll be going down to Murray Bridge and giving it all we got. We're going to make sure we're not making up the numbers. We'll be taking it pretty seriously and knocking a few doors down if we can. So, no, thanks you guys. That's great.
Thanks, Rocket. Look forward to catching up in the footy season, mate.
See you, mate.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Happy days.
Welcome back. Happy days, Malcolm. Charlie Parker, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Charlie Parkside. Yes, great Charlie. Had a kick and a catch at Adelaide Uni. Top bloke, great family, the Parkers. Son of Stephen Skittle Parker. always love stirring. He stood Neville Roberts in 82, and we do point out the fact, though, that the great man Rocky kicked more goals on Peter Motley than he did on Stephen Parker.
Yep. Pick 17 in the rookie draft in 2021, coming from Sturt. Talented cricketer as well.
Yes, he is actually a very good cricketer as well. Look, unfortunately, he had a fair few injuries last year. Look, I really hope he gets another year at Western Bulldogs. Not confirmed yet either way. Just desperately hope he does because, he's got a bit to offer.
Could he be a good addition to the Crows Port?
I think so.
Yep.
Let's just say there may have been frustration that he wasn't there.
1982, happy birthday, Ian Thorpe.
Arguably our greatest ever swimmer.
Yep.
Stats-wise and all that. He certainly always delivered in the crunch. How many times did he come home in that last lap in relays? And just look, he's one of the all-time greats.
1969, happy birthday to Nancy Kerrigan. Very, very interesting topic.
Yes, we're back on almost the same topic, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Cut down by opponent. Yes, different to say the least.
Yep. Bronze in 92, silver in 94, before being attacked in 94 by Tonya Harding's ex-bodyguard. Bizarre story.
Yeah, bizarre is a word.
Absolutely. And to finish off on this day, Michael Schumacher wins the season-ending Formula One Grand Prix in Japan. 11 victories for the year, and his third Drivers' Championship.
He's one of the all-time greats as well.
Absolutely.
Great driver in that glory time of Prost and Lauder, etc. One of the all-time greats.
And a real loss to the sport as well.
Big time.
Extra time. Big finish.
Today's big finish, we might just put on hold. Rocket's interview went just a little bit longer than we'd anticipated, but it was certainly great to hear from him. We had planned on doing a bit of an AFLW quiz. We might hold that over to next week. Also, Bathurst holds the last victory as well, and Daniel Ricciardo. So we might just chuck that in next week's episode and talk about that when we've got a little bit more time.
Yep, why not?
Thank you, Malcolm. Once again, we certainly promise to do better. And we will see you next week. If you haven't liked, rated or subscribed, please do so. Our Facebook page, Sportscast SA, has had a big uplift in likes, and we'd like to continue to see that grow. So thank you very much, Malcolm. Thank you to everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, guys.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.